Everyone, welcome to this webinar on discovering the full potential of your Adminis portal. I'd like to introduce you to Sushi from Adminis, who supports us on a daily basis with the management of our very important relationship with Adminis. Having just returned from Fiji myself, the only question Sushi has not been able to answer is why she left Fiji to live in Christchurch. Welcome, Sushi. Perhaps you could answer that now, Sushi.
I love the snow, I guess.
I love the snow. Very good. Sushi will be on standby today to answer any questions you come up with that we can't answer. Given we have a lot to cover, the time may drift beyond the 30 minutes and we've allowed, so please feel free to leave if you need to. Please also feel free to ask any questions as I run through the portal. To ask a question, you need to use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, and you can type in your question there. It will come up with your name, and if you want to be anonymous, you can click on a little button to be anonymous. So let's go. I assume you've all mastered the login process. On our new website, we have added a client login button that you can see there where my cursor is on the top right there of the screen. So that's one way you could now access the Adminis portal. You'll also be used to this login details, and we're adding another security feature, which is going to come live next week, that Sushi can quickly run us through when you're logging in to your portfolio. Sushi?
Hi. Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, yes. When you log into your portfolio now, there's no authentication required, but we are looking at turning it on for you, so to make it more secure. So every time you log in, you'll get a passcode in your email, a 6-digit password. So you'll have to grab it from your email and then come and authenticate that yes, you are the user to let you into the system. So just making it more secure and safe for you guys.
It's just best practice with cybersecurity as it is. And you can see it here. It'll look like this. You have your username, password, and then you'll receive a link. And then that link will then open up your portfolio for you. Now, this is what you see, of course, when you'll be used to seeing this screen. And once you've entered that and logged in, then it will ask you for a passcode after next week. Now, I'm going to log into a sample portfolio now, share my screen, and we'll then get started on that part of the webinar. Here we go. Righto. Yep. Okay. Here we go. This is now the portfolio we'll run through. You'll be very familiar with this screen. There are 7 tabs across the top, which show you your transactions, holdings, performance, etc. We're going to start with the dashboard. Shows your portfolio value, and that is at the 30th of June, the date tab on the top right-hand side. So today it'll default to today's date and gives you your portfolio value today. You then drop down to performance, and this is a summary of your the performance of your portfolio. At the top of the performance tab, you've got an option to see it either in percentage terms or in dollar terms. So if you click on dollars, it will bring up how much you've made in the quarter, 12 months, 3 years, and since March 2021, which is when we first onboarded with Adminis. You can then look at different time periods. So you take it into the last quarter, it will show the last quarter. 12 months, obviously, 12 months. Now, a couple of nuances with this is that the since inception button when you click on since inception, it will take you back to when we onboarded with Adminis, which is March 2021. For those of you who were clients before then, you click on historic inception, and if we click on percentage, it will take you back to when you onboarded. So in this case, for example, the sample client onboarded August 2019. And so we have given Adminis the data. We actually gave them 7 years data before March 2021. So that took you back to March 2014. So even clients who have been with us much longer than that, the Adminis portal only has their returns information back to March 2014. So that's, the regulatory requirement to keep 7 years of data, etc. So we just chose that simply to simplify it when we felt it was enough historical data for you to be able to see the performance of your portfolio. So if you then come down to view by month, by quarter, we've done that. We haven't done that. We'll quickly just have a look at that. You can see there that this gives you the quarterly returns, and obviously there's fewer down quarters and more down months, and that's obviously because the returns recover within the quarter. The return type is something that you may not understand, and the My Returns is the first button there, and if you click on the little arrow, it says My Returns incorporate size and timing of cash flows. So that's called the internal rate of return. The actual investment returns, which is really the returns that you think about, you talk about, it's when you say you have a term deposit that gives you 4%, that's an investment return. When you look at other people's returns, that's their investment return. So this is the return you should look at when looking at the performance of your portfolio. And if you look at this month on month, you can see this client has started off with $1,000 back then. Let's say just 1,000 is the base on this chart, 1,000. And at the end of July 25, they had 1,698. So that means their portfolio rose 69.8% over that 5.5-year period. There's nowhere else where Adminis breaks down that return into an annualized return, simply because they generate all their own data, and so it only starts at March 2021. So these numbers along here, which are your investment return from March 2021, and if you just to show the difference, if you put in My Returns, you can see that is 6.51% per annum, whereas investment returns are a little higher, 6.79. Now, often it's the other way around. My Returns may be higher than investment returns. It just depends on the cash flows in and out of the portfolio over time. So that's the investment portal summary, performance summary. If you go down here, you just see where your money is invested, different categories, and then you get a cash summary at the bottom. If you click on the left-hand button there, it will show you where your cash is held. So in this case, New Zealand dollars, a little bit of US and Australian dollars. So that's the dashboard. On the transactions tab, you have got a cash tab is the first one, and that will give you all of your transactions. And then you can filter that by a whole lot of different categories. But probably best to then go across, if you're looking for certain things, you can look at the subsets. Withdrawals is no withdrawals in this case. Assets, this is just looking at all your investment transactions. And you can filter this by applications. So if you clicked on applications, it would just run through all of your applications or all of your investments that you've made, that we've made on your behalf. Equity trade would go through equity transactions. And fund redemption will go through all the funds that we've redeemed. And you can scroll down on this. It will take you right through back to the beginning, back to March 21. Again, there's no transaction history beyond March 21. And revenue, you can look at interest and dividends received, and you can again look at this by just categorizing the different categories there. So it's quite self-explanatory. Now, holdings, this has got a lot more information in it, and we'll spend a little bit of time on this particular tab. Holdings gives you the same summary there that you saw on the dashboard, and then, but it gives you a few other tabs to look at here. Asset type, that's not much use. It just sort of breaks it down to the type of security it is. Currency is interesting because you can then see how much exposure you've got to Australian dollars, pounds, New Zealand, and US dollars. So that's quite interesting. And you can see that, you know, you have a lot of exposure to Aussie and US, and that's reasonably typical of our clients. And that helps you to then understand movements, currency movements that affect the portfolio. And there's also hedging. So you can look at this, and then when we go down into holdings, you'll be able to see hedging, and you'll be able to compare how much of my US dollars are hedged and how much of my Aussie dollars are hedged. Liquidity is important. It gives you an idea of how quickly you can access your cash. So in this case, you've got 70 grand at call, 167,000 within 7 days, another 81 within 30 days, and then another 108 within 60 days, and quite a bit beyond that. So we're talking here up to 90 days, up to 180 days, and then up to 12 months and beyond. So there have been investments we've made which have 3 or 4 year lockups. I think in this case, it's the L1 Special Situations Fund. It's a 3 or 4 year lockup. And so that cash is not available until that time. Now, going down to the summary below, you can click on each of these categories. So cash will break down your cash holdings. And the first one there, margin, that's money that we need to hold against your foreign currency hedges. So that's not available. We need to hold that with Jarden, who provides us with that service. And so that money is accounted for. Even though it's still cash, it is accounted for and needed as margin money. We have US dollars, a tiny wee bit there, some New Zealand and some Australian dollars. It gives you the currency as of today. So you can see the US is at 60.23, which makes it into 259 New Zealand dollars, etc. Closing the cash and coming to Australian equities. So this is a broad category. These funds invest principally in Australian equities. And you can see it gives you the quantity, the cost price, the price now as at this date. So that's important to look at this date. As you know, most prices are updated monthly in Saxe Coburg portfolios. There's the odd one like Discovery, which is a daily price. So Discovery's price, obviously when the sample was produced on the 24th of June, that was the Discovery Fund's price, 2.95 as at the 24th of June. So it's important to understand what you're looking at. And that's why we often encourage you to put the date at the top to the end of the previous month. And we'll come to that when we look at the performance tab. So let's look at this. You can now look at these funds a bit more closely by clicking on that tab on the left. And this will show you when you bought it, and the price it was, and then it gives you the price. Now, this is the price, not the performance. You have to differentiate, particularly for Australian unit trusts, because every June, Australian unit trusts have got to distribute their realised capital gains and their income. Some distribute these more frequently, sometimes twice a year or 4 times a year, every quarter. But all of these growth type investments, they distribute every June of every year. So you can see that the price went from 109 to 104. That was just a distribution. And you can see there that corporate action there, and that will be the receipt of the distribution. And then the fund carries on from there, and we haven't got up to this June, where there'll be another distribution. So this just gives you, really, when it comes to Australian unit trusts, it simply gives you kind of like, you can see the trend, but these big drawdowns every June kind of, make it difficult for you to figure out how well you've done in that portfolio. But on the performance tab, we'll be able to see that. Discovery Fund, you can see we bought some here, we bought some more here, and that is a true reflection of the performance, etc. So you can go through all of these different categories and look at each fund separately. And just a quick word on the currency contracts. So here you can see US dollars, we've got $350,100 hedged. That's a New Zealand dollar number. And Aussie dollars, we've got 133,600 hedged. Now you can go back up to your your currency tab there, and you can see that US dollars, you've got 445,000 exposure. You've got 350,000 hedged. So that's around 75–80% is where we're hedged at the moment. Now this is the price that this hedge was established at. That doesn't really tell you very much, because we roll these hedges every 3 months. And what we're trying to do, obviously, is hedge when the US dollar is weaker. And we put on these US dollar hedges initially much higher, but then when it went right down to 55, 56, we hedged it more there. So, these roll every 3 months, so they don't really give you you don't really know from these when we put on the original hedges. But we're, like for Australia, for example, we rolled that, it matures in August, so we must have rolled that in June or May, and at 92.63. So at 92.63, we probably wouldn't have added new hedging, but we rolled the existing hedges. And then if, say, it got to 94, we'd probably reduce it. If it got to 91.5, we'd add more to it. So that's just the way we hedge. And this is just the profit loss on the hedges, on these particular hedges. And again, they don't really show you the longer term profit and loss. So that's the holdings page. Now let's move on to performance. At the top of the performance page is a filter. And this gives you similar options to the dashboard, but it also gives you a custom date range. So you can click on the custom date range. You can say, seeing that we could see that prices were to the 31st of May, let's put in the 31st of May as our end. And let's say we want to do it for 18 months. So, or let's just say some random date. Doesn't take me too long to go to. Let's go from April 2024. You apply that, and that will produce the returns in that custom period, 5.73 per annum. And it will still give you all this other information too. Now, as at the 31st of May. So that's the quarter ending 31st May, 12 months ending 31st May, the month of May.
Just a disclaimer there, Mark.
Yes.
It shows in the middle there, return settling after tax and before tax. Now, this is a demo environment. So we can see that feature there, but if you log into my Adminis today, it's not there. However, it's going to be released to my Adminis on the 1st of August. So after lunch, when you log in, it should appear there as well.
Okay, thanks, Sushi. Very good.
Coming up, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and currency, just again, that just means dollars. So that will just give it to you in dollars if you apply that. Now, going back to percent. Again, you have here my returns and investment returns. In the performance tab, really the most useful button to click on there is my returns. And that's because we're not trying to look at portfolio returns, investment returns. The best place to look at that's in the dashboard. The feature that my returns offers you in the performance tab, if you go down through this, it gives you this returns breakdown, which is also on the dashboard. But if you go further down, it gives you the performance of each security. So in this case, going back up here, this is for our custom date range. Let's change that to, say, 3 months ending the 31st of May 2025. So just checking, 31st of May, yeah, 1st to 3rd, 25 to 31st of May. We've applied that. You go down and you can now look at each security, and you can see that it ranks them from the best performing security in that period down to the worst performing security in that period. And you can see that's 2Cs Global, which is a tiny little position, and it was down 97%. If you look at the top, Discovery Founders Fund was up 7.6. StatR was up 5.5. Now, you can then find more information by clicking on the left there. And this shows you the opening value, 10,656. It shows you the unrealized gain, 588, and the closing value. And then it breaks it down and shows you what the currency impact was. So in this case, StatR was up 12.4% in the quarter, but currency detracted 6.14% because the New Zealand dollar was much stronger against the US dollar. Now, remembering that we've hedged about 80% of the US dollar, but of course, the system can't apply that on a security by security basis, but you can work it out roughly in your head that we only lost 20% of that 6, so we lost about 1.2% on currency. So our return was closer to 10 or 11% in StatR in this period. So you can do that for each security. You can go through and you can look at each security, and it's, if you're interested, you can then figure out, well, that was a good quarter. I wonder who did well and who didn't. And and so that's a useful tool. Moving on. Cash flow is not really applicable to us because we don't own bonds. So this is more designed for portfolios that have bonds and coupons and so on. Documents. This is where you can find your tax reports and your PI tax certificates, which really are not that interesting, and your DIMS reports. The DIMS reports are kind of like the quarterly report you receive from us, just a little bit more information in those. So you can download these and you can go in and have a look at those. They're on your in this Documents tab. Now, financial actions. This is one place. There's actually a tab on the dashboard too where you can click and it can show you deposits, right, Sushi?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's on the dashboard, and it gives you your bank account number and your unique reference. So please make sure you have your unique reference when you are depositing money into Adminis bank account.
Right. So you need this unique reference, and you need to. The other thing is if you send money to us from a different bank account than what we have on record for you, then we need to then verify that new bank account too. So the money will sit with Adminis until we get verification, and Marilyn works through that with you. So best if you can to send money from the same account that we have verified for you already. But if that's not possible, then we just go through that verification process for the new bank account, and
Correct.
everything will go smoothly.
Yeah. And just on the bank account verification, right now, you send everything to Marilyn, and then Marilyn verifies that, and then we verify it in the system. In the coming months, there's gonna be a little process change on bank account verification where Marilyn will still need your proof of bank account. However, once we've loaded the bank account onto the portal, there's going to be a notification. A bell will come and sit where your name appears on the just next to the name on the portal. So where it says sign out and mark at Saxe Coburg, there's going to be a little bell that you can click and go and verify your bank account. So it comes down back to you to say, yes, you've got my correct bank account.
Very good. That sounds great. Yeah, we just obviously, security is paramount.
Yeah.
And so we're wanting to, utilize all of the checks and balances that Adminis are implementing for us, and to keep you safe and to stop anybody from accessing your information. Right, I think that's us. So that was good, isn't it? We've finished like within a few minutes, and we have a little bit of time for Q&A. Are there any questions at all? You can click on Q&A and here we go, Q&A. Click on Q&A to ask any questions. And of course, if there are things that you didn't understand or have questions, you can flick an email through to us as well. It's no problem at all. We'll respond to that. And if any of you would like a one-on-one session, we're quite happy to accommodate that as well. I'll just give you another minute or so to come through with any questions. I'm sure it wasn't that clear. Right. Okay. Fantastic. Well, once again, thank you very much for turning up today, and hopefully that will help you to get a little more out of your Adminis portal. Bye for now. See you later. Thank you.